Hello. Welcome to our sixth, right, Taylor? Our sixth one? Okay, our sixth caregiver virtual support group. My name is Deidre Darst, and I'm a CARES board member. Does everyone want to go ahead and introduce themselves really fast?
Hi there, I'm Taylor McClanahan. I am a Master's of Social Work student at Marshall, and more importantly, I am the parent of a child with autism who has really benefited from the support of CARES.
Hi, my name is Roxanne Clay, and I am with the West Virginia State Treasurer's Office and the director of the WVABLE Savings Program.
Okay, well, before we get started, we just have a couple of disclosures to go over. The first is that as CARES, we are here to offer information and support to families, but we are not offering medical advice. So if you have specific concerns or questions, definitely speak to your professionals, your pediatricians, doctors, therapists. Taylor, did you also have a disclosure?
Yes, so I think a lot of us are really familiar with the platform now, but I just wanted to remind everyone that this session is being recorded, and so if you comment, your question will be read out loud. If you have a question and for whatever reason you would prefer it not to be like read out loud in this, in the video part of it, just add that in the comments. Say, don't put my name, or can I ask this question after the recording or something like that? Because we do want to, respect your anonymity, respect the place we are as best we can. Another thing is, let's remember, you guys have been awesome about this, but just another reminder, we're here for support and we're here as a unifying thing. So let's all treat each other with respect and dignity, as well as treating ourselves with respect.
Thank you, Taylor. Just a few housekeeping things. I wanted to mention that we have the caregiver survey. When you go to our website, it's wvcaresforautism.org. There should be a survey that pops up, and we would really like everybody to take that. We're trying to find out what exactly it is that you as a caregiver need. So it's, I don't know, just a few questions. It shouldn't take more than a couple minutes. And that actually closes on March 26th. So go ahead and take that tonight if you can. And April 17th is our third annual Spect Run. It's at the Hurricane City Park this year. And I am going to show a little ad. So we were really excited about that. We didn't get to actually have the race last year because of COVID. So technically this is our second real event. And we're just really excited to get runners out and families. There's going to be a family fun day that starts at noon. And we'll have lots of fun stations. There's going to be a DJ. We'll have crafts. The foam zone is going to be there, which is so much fun for little ones, but also like big kids like me. So you can go to our website to register for that. I think also AP timing, you can register there. And that's just one of our big fundraisers because we're a nonprofit. And to be able to do things like this, we need community support. So we hope you guys will come out and support us, and also just have fun with us. I think that's all I have. Taylor, did you have any other announcements or anything?
No, I'm just really excited to hear what Roxanne has to tell us about WVABLE.
Okay, Roxanne, the floor is yours. I will get your PowerPoint up here.
Well, while you're doing that, I just want to add that I'm excited for your Spectrum. Registered and ready to go. I know last year it was canceled, so we're excited for it this year.
It really is so much fun. My 8-year-old still talks about how 2 years ago I threw one of those, it was like the color run stuff, and the runners would run through it. And he's like, do you remember when you threw that green thing at me and my mouth was green for a week? It wasn't really a whole week, but he remembers it, and it was fun. So,
well, you'll have to choose another color this year.
That's right.
Okay. So thanks, ladies, and thanks to Sarah and CARES for having WVABLE as part of your session virtual group for this Sunday evening. And so for those of you that are not familiar with WVABLE, it is a savings and investment program that allows many individuals with disabilities to save and invest without jeopardizing their eligibility for federal benefit programs such as SSI and Medicaid. And so as we go through this presentation, I'm going to throw out some tips. And so the first one is you're going to hear me refer to, you're going to hear me say WVABLE, ABLE, and STABLE. And just know that essentially they are all the same. WVABLE is West Virginia's ABLE plan. ABLE is referring to the federal legislation, and STABLE refers to the name of the account that the individual in West Virginia will enroll. Okay, next slide.
I'm trying to figure that out.
Okay.
There we go. Okay.
Okay.
Next one.
Sure. So during the presentation, we're going to talk about 5 important things that we want you to know about WVABLE Savings Program. What is WVABLE and why it's important? What are the benefits to owning a WVABLE savings account? Who is eligible and how do you enroll? How to make contributions and withdrawals? And what can WVABLE funds be used for? Next slide. So another thing I want to mention, a couple more things. This here is you see a list of WVABLE's advisory board. It is made up of numerous organizations and entities, many of which you may recognize. So they serve and or advocate for people with disabilities. So many of the organizations that are represented on the board are included on this slide. So they each play an important role to inform individuals around the state about WVABLE. They report updates and provide insights on their area of expertise. They host WVABLE presentations just like the one this evening. They inform WVABLE about upcoming events around the state, and they provide guidance and recommendations for promoting the program. And the next slide.
Mary.
And the next slide.
There we go.
There we go. So on this slide, you see a screenshot of the WVABLE.com website. So if you have an additional monitor or if you're on your smartphone, you can take a quick look, WVABLE.com, as I'll be referring to the site throughout. This is also where you can go to take a deeper dive into the information that I'll be sharing with you this evening. It includes a list of frequently asked questions, provides detailed information regarding eligibility, benefits. There's also a resources tab with more information. It's also where individuals go to enroll in WVABLE. So next slide, what is ABLE? So WVABLE is based on federal legislation called the ABLE Act that was passed in 2014. The bill had the most bipartisan support of any bill that was passed by Congress. It is included in the Internal Revenue Code as a new section, 529A, and the bill created savings and investment accounts for individuals with disabilities. So bottom line, any money that is deposited into this account does not affect eligibility for benefit programs such as SSI, Supplemental Security Income, and Medicaid. So in addition to creating the savings accounts, the ABLE Act also gave states the mechanism to create their own ABLE programs. So most ABLE programs are administered through their state treasurer's office. The ABLE Act does not mandate that states have a program, so we do feel very fortunate to have a program here in West Virginia. Currently, there are 44 states with ABLE plans. And so another tip, if you were to do a search on the internet for WVABLE, it's likely that another state plan could show up. For example, ABLE Now, which is Virginia's plan. And it's important for folks to know that that is not our plan here in West Virginia. Virginia's plan is a national plan, and there are other national plans out there, meaning anyone can join. But the West Virginia resident and taxpayer does not get the protections and the benefits of our legislation here. And so we'll talk about those a little bit more in another slide. But as long as you start at WVABLE.com website, you will know that you're enrolling in West Virginia's plan. So the next slide. It's important to know that ABLE accounts have hybrid functionality. So they're structurally like a 529 college savings, which is also administered through the West Virginia State Treasurer's Office. It's all done online. You open an account at WVABLE.com, and then you're going to manage the account at stable.com. And there's no banks involved. What is new as of 2019 is there is a West Virginia state income tax deduction for all contributions made into a WVABLE account by the West Virginia taxpayer. So this is one of those legislative enhancements that I just referenced. WVABLE, just like 529 College Savings, offers savings and investment options, and the earnings grow tax-free. Now, where it's different from the 529 is that the 529 is more restrictive and can only be spent on education-related expenses. Also, 529 savings, they're really meant to be used in the future, whereas ABLE monies can be used at any time, now or in the future, to pay for qualified disability expenses. ABLE accounts also have the functionality of a checking account in that it has transactional capabilities. It's relatively immediate access to the funds, and the funds may be used for a broad range of disability expenses that again may occur now or in the future. And then also they are similar to a special needs trust in that just know that prior to the ABLE Act, special needs trust was the only way to shelter resources above the $2,000 limit. However, special needs trust, it does require a lawyer, and we know that they can be expensive too. Next slide. So what is WVABLE? It is West Virginia's ABLE plan. It's administered by the West Virginia State Treasurer's Office. Our program launched February 9th of 2018, and we just celebrated our 3rd year anniversary. It is offered to the West Virginia resident through a partnership with the Ohio Stable program. So this is where I mentioned Stable again. So know that Ohio was the first state in the nation to develop their Stable program back in 2016. So they invested a lot of monies and resources into developing their plan. And then once it was established, they invited other states to partner. So there are 12 total states in the Stable plan, including Kentucky, Georgia, South Carolina. So bottom line, West Virginia saved a lot of money by partnering with Ohio. Also know that Stable is a national plan. So the benefit is if the West Virginia resident that enrolls in WVABLE moves out of state, the plan will automatically roll over. Nothing else will change about their account. They can still use the same login information, and they can still use their debit card. And we'll talk about that in a future slide. It's also good to know that Stable is the largest and the strongest program nationwide with the most number of accounts and the most account assets. So here, this is a photo that was and a testimonial that we received back in the fall of 2019. I met this family at the Families Conference actually in 2019. And you can read their testimonial there. And while you're reading that, I'll tell you that if you go to our WVABLE Facebook page, When we celebrated our 3rd anniversary back in the first part of February, we couldn't do anything in person, so what we did was a 3-year celebration over 3 days, in which we showcased a series, there was about a dozen of them, testimonials from parents and advocates and individuals that work with those that are eligible that shared how WVABLE accounts are helping them to reach their savings goal and to achieve financial independence. So when you get a chance, you can hop on over to our WVABLE Facebook page. Testimonials are just an excellent way, where folks are speaking firsthand on how these accounts are helping them to reach their savings goals. The next slide, what are the benefits of a WVABLE account? So they dramatically increase the ability to save. Before ABLE, individuals could only save up to $2,000 of their own money before they risk losing their health care and other benefits. So now with WVABLE, individuals can save well over $2,000 and still maintain eligibility for programs like SSI and Medicaid. So they avoid having to spend down monies in order to stay below that $2,000 limit. They can save for an emergency fund and even for the long term. So we do hear from parents that worry what will happen to their child after they pass away. So WVABLE accounts allow for the parents to start building a nest egg for their child, to pay for expenses that occur now, and to ensure that the child will be taken care of financially for the long term. And that's really the core of this program, to allow individuals with a disability to save more than just $2,000 so that they may have the opportunity to live more independently, they can plan for their future, and maintain and improve the quality of their life. So the next slide, we're going to talk a little bit more about additional benefits. The account is actually owned by the individual with a disability, and the disability can be physical, emotional, or intellectual. Note, the individual can only own one ABLE account. So this is where it's different from the 529 college savings, in that the owner of that account, the account creator is the owner, and they may have multiple accounts. ABLE accounts also provide financial independence for people with disabilities. It provides new investment opportunities that they did not have before. And there are tax benefits. Just like the 529 college savings plan, the interest that is earned on the investments grow tax-free, and the earnings remain tax-free as long as the ABLE funds are spent on qualified disability expenses. And we'll go into that in another slide. So as previously mentioned too, another tax benefit, new as of 2019, there is a state tax deduction for contributions made to a WVABLE account by the West Virginia state taxpayer, and that's dollar for dollar. So for parents that contribute to their child's WVABLE account, those contributions they may claim on their state income tax deduction. Next slide, eligibility. So who is eligible? So you want to think of this in terms of anyone with a disability. And I'll throw out another tip. At the WVABLE.com website, there is an eligibility quiz, and it's a quick series of yes or no questions that will tell the individual if they're eligible to open an account. However, sometimes people do run into some roadblocks with the quiz, and then they think they're not eligible. So I always recommend for folks to click where it reads more information below that eligibility quiz. And that takes them to the full eligibility page on our website that goes into more detail about their requirements. And also, during the enrollment, know that eligibility is one of the first questions that's asked. So the requirements include, first, the beneficiary is a West Virginia resident, and the onset of the disability will have had to have occurred prior to the age of 26. So this includes the symptoms of the disability. It doesn't mean that the person has to be diagnosed before age 26. It's just that there's some type of record of the symptom, the onset of the actual symptoms of the disability. Note that you don't have to open the account prior to age 26 too. For example, you could have someone who developed a mental illness at 25, but was not diagnosed until 30, and then did not open their stable account until they were age 35. So that would be an example. And then one of the following criteria needs to be met. The individual is eligible to receive SSI or SSDI due to their disability or blindness, and know that more than half of the account owners for WVABLE actually fall in this category. So this does not mean, too, that you are currently receiving SSI or SSDI, just that you're eligible to receive it. So individuals, some of them might be making too much money and they exceed the income limit. So they still qualify for ABLE accounts if they are eligible for SSI, SSDI due to their disability. This way, they can still receive the other benefits that we talked about, including the tax benefits. So let's say they've applied for SSI, they haven't got the answer yet. Or let's say they've applied and they were initially denied, which most people are after their first application. So they can go down to the second eligibility criteria. Do they have a condition that's listed on Social Security Administration's list of compassionate allowances condition? So if you go to WVABLE.com and then the eligibility page, you'll see that list that's included, and it's actually hyperlinked to Social Security Administration's website. And the website actually includes a list, and it's in alphabetical order. And it's really just a quick way to identify diseases and other medical conditions that meet Social Security standards for disability benefits. So primarily, you will see certain cancers, adult brain disorders, a number of rare disorders that affect children, many of which you may have not considered a disability. And then the third criteria is self-certification. And what that means is that you have a written diagnosis by a doctor of a physical or mental impairment that causes marked or severe functional limitations and has lasted or is expected to last for at least 1 year. So this is the same standard that Social Security uses for SSI and SSDI determinations. Know that this does not have to be the physician that diagnosed you. It can be your current treating physician. Also, you don't have to actually provide this written diagnosis at the time of enrollment. You just have to keep it on hand in case it's ever requested. And so another tip is, or piece to know, is one of the final steps that the individual will take during the enrollment is they will self-certify that the information that they provided is accurate and truthful. We always recommend that individuals start an audit file when they open up a WVABLE account. They can keep this letter from the physician, but in case any information is ever requested by the IRS or by Social Security, you will have that on hand. This is an IRS program, so it is to their purview to audit the accounts, just like they would any other IRS-related program. Okay, so the next slide, we're going to talk a little bit about enrollment. So how do folks enroll? Everything, as mentioned, is done online at WVABLE.com. So there is no paper application. And this is similar to an online checking account. So you do need an email address to enroll, and you will need to create a username and password. So on the website, you'll see Open Account. You click there, and it takes you to stable.com. Again, this is correct. Sometimes we have folks to call and say, wait a second, you know, I was at WVABLE, and I'm trying to open an account, and now I'm at Stable. So is that right? And so that is correct. We have partnered with the Ohio Stable program. When they enroll in Stable, it's a Stable account that the individual owns. And so all communications from that point forward will come from Stable. It is relatively quick and easy to enroll. The slide here reads that it takes about 20 minutes, but most often it takes as little as 10 to 15 minutes to enroll. There is a $50 minimum deposit required to open the account, and then all future deposits can be as little as $1. So as far as who can complete the enrollment and who can manage the account, The Federal ABLE Act requires that the person opening the account be either the individual with the disability, who we know as the beneficiary, or if the individual is not able to open and manage the account, for example, if it's a child or an adult with a disability who's not able or willing to enroll and manage their own account, the Act allows for what's called an authorized legal representative. And that is defined by law as one of the following: either the parent, a guardian or conservator that's been approved by the courts, or a power of attorney. So this would be anyone that is willing to serve in this capacity on behalf of the beneficiary. And note that the power of attorney is limited to the WVABLE account, and we have those power of attorney forms on our website at the WVABLE.com and then resources tab. It's important to note too that late last year, the IRS released final regulations for ABLE accounts. And what they did was they expanded who can now enroll and manage the accounts as an authorized legal representative. So in addition to those that I just mentioned, it also includes grandparents, siblings, spouses, and Social Security rep payees. And as a little side tip, starting July 1, we will have a new program manager administrator for the stable accounts. And that means there will be a little bit different look to the online platform. When the individual enrolls after July 1, they will see these additional names for authorized legal representatives, grandparent, sibling, spouse, and Social Security rep payee. Now this here is a picture the day the program launched. And this is Christie Black with her daughter Gracie. And you'll see Gracie on a lot of the WVABLE posters. Christie is a advocacy specialist with the Developmental Disabilities Council. So some of you may recognize her. And Christie was very active in getting the legislation passed in West Virginia. So next you might be asking or wondering, how do we actually fund the account? So funding it is fairly easy. First, you can link a checking or savings account where you can make transfers as needed through electronic funds transfer. You can set this up at any time. You can do it at the time of enrollment, or you can wait a few weeks later. You can log back in. That's your choice if you would like to make contributions this method, or you can elect just to mail a check to stable. What you will need to do in the memo section of the check is include a name of a beneficiary and then the account number in the memo section, or maybe just include another note along with your mailing. A side note is I do have envelopes that's already addressed to stable that I include in packets that I mail out to families. So if anybody's interested in that, we can certainly provide that. And I will be giving my contact information here at the end. Another way to fund the account is through direct deposit. This is also an option where payroll monies can be automatically deducted and deposited into a WVABLE account. It can be done by the beneficiary that's working, or perhaps a parent that wants to contribute a portion of their check on an ongoing basis. And then another method that I want to mention real quick is on the next slide. It's called an EGift Event. And it's a fourth option on how individuals can make contributions to a WVABLE account. So whoever it is that's managing the account, they would log in and they would find the tab that's titled EGift Event. And they're going to basically set up an event. So for example, a birthday coming up, you've got a holiday or graduation, or perhaps there's a specific need like glasses or a hearing aid. They're going to set up the event. They're going to include email addresses, and all the recipients are going to receive this invitation. The email is going to include a link, and it allows the individual to make a direct contribution into the WVABLE account. So it kind of functions like a GoFundMe account. The benefit to this method, first of all, it's easy and a quick way to make a contribution. And the monies don't actually touch the hands of the beneficiary, so there's no concern with the asset limit for SSI and Medicaid. Just so that is actually a highly underutilized option for folks. So we always like to point it out in our presentations. So next, you might be wondering how much money can be deposited into the WVABLE account. So for the individual beneficiary that is not employed, the maximum amount of contributions is $15,000 per calendar year, and that's from all sources. So that would include contributions from family, from friends, businesses, an employer, a trust, special needs trust, for example, a legal entity. This also can include monies from stimulus payments and rollovers from the 529 college savings. Now, if a beneficiary is employed, he or she may contribute up to an additional $12,760 of their employment earnings, which would bring the total maximum yearly contribution amount to $27,760 per calendar year. And then there is a lifetime limit that includes a balance limit of $501,000. Note to another tip that you don't necessarily have to worry about that $15,000 as the stable system. They're going to reject excess contributions that are above the $15,000 per year. And note too that $15,000 is a contribution limit, but your balance can actually grow higher than that number. Of course, if you've got your monies invested, you can see that amount grow with your investment earnings. So after the individual completes the questions of the online application related to determining eligibility, funding the account, then the next question is about choosing their investment options. So note that we here at the Treasurer's Office, we cannot provide advice on your investment options, but we do have information that's included on the website. It's the savings and investment page. And of course, you can seek financial advice from a financial or investment advisor of your choosing. But you do have 5 investment options to choose from, including 4 Vanguard mutual fund options that range from aggressive to conservative. So this, of course, means that you're investing in the stock market. And we know that when the market is up, you can earn money. But there is also risks in that when the market is down, you can certainly lose money. So the reminder is, the benefit of this 529A account is that you do not pay taxes on the interest that is earned. And then the 5th investment option is called the bank safe option. And this is really more like a savings account in that the earnings are very low, but it is a 100% FDIC insured option, which means the principal is protected. And so during the enrollment, you will determine how you want your contributions allocated. So you can split up the distributions where you designate a certain percentage to more than one option, or you could choose one option for all contributions. And you see 3 different examples there of how folks have distributed their contributions. But the bottom line is, as long as 100% of the funds are allocated, then you can move on to the next enrollment question. And another tip is you can make changes to your future investment options at any time. However, for the monies that's already invested, you can you're limited to redirect those funds twice per calendar year. So on the next slide, so your money is in your account, but you want to know how can you spend it. So withdrawals from an ABLE account must be spent on qualified disability expenses. And the legislation has defined what qualifies as a disability-related expense, in that first, it must relate to the disability, and then it must maintain or improve the health, independence, or quality of life. So the legislation was very broad in the interpretation of what qualifies. They did not actually create a list for the purpose that they didn't want it to be restrictive. So I always like to suggest to people to think of it in terms of what would not qualify. So gifting the monies, gambling, tobacco, alcohol use, those are obvious expenses that would not be a qualified disability expense. However, examples of what would qualify: housing, rent, education, hiring a caregiver to help with transportation, food. Social Security actually clarified that food is considered a qualified disability expense from ABLE accounts, and it kind of falls under the category of basic living expenses. It could include an iPad for the child with autism for assistive technology use. It could even include going to the movies, as that lends to building and maintaining a quality of life. Anything that benefits the child or the adult with a disability. So unlike a college savings 529 plan, as soon as you put the monies into the ABLE account, the monies are available for use. Note that when you spend from the account, again, this goes back to that audit trail, we recommend that you do keep documentation of what the monies were spent for. The IRS does regulate the account, so if ever they're asking for any information about what the withdrawals were used for, you have your receipts and you have your documentation to show that it was spent on qualified disability expenses. And then, of course, Social Security may also ask. So next slide, how do you get the money out of your account? So know that there's no fees and there is no limit set on making the withdrawals. We've talked about linking a checking or savings account. So if you've done that, then you can obviously use that to make contributions into the account, but that's also how you can make withdrawals, is you can move the monies from the stable account back over to the checking or savings account. Another way is you can use a third-party check, and it's like a online bill pay where you're requesting Stable to issue a check payment. And we do highly recommend this method, as it automatically keeps a record for what you're spending. And then another method is you would transfer monies onto a loadable debit card called a Stable card. So the Stable cards function like a loadable prepaid debit card. The card can be swiped wherever Visa is accepted. They don't come automatic. That's another thing to make sure that you're aware of. You do need to request the Stable card, and the link for that is at our resources tab at the WVABLE.com website. Once you complete that on their website and that's finalized, then when you log back into your Stable account, you're going to see the Stable card included as a linked account. So simply you would move monies from that Stable account over to that Stable card, and then those monies are available for use. But note too that if you're transferring money to a checking or savings, or you're transferring money to a Stable card, always allow about 3 business days for those monies to land in that account. So you definitely want to plan ahead. But I wanted to mention the Stable card, and we're going to talk about it too on this next slide, because they're a very convenient way for individuals that plan to use these WVABLE accounts to pay for more everyday living expenses. So there's, on this slide, you'll see a picture of the Stable card, but then also I've included a testimonial here that we received last year from a parent, Carolyn Vigil. And this is her teenage son, Jackson Brubaker, who has autism. So the picture shows Jackson. He's leaving the Dollar General store after making his first purchase independent of his parents, and he used his Stable companion card. So it's an awesome testimony that demonstrates how the card is teaching independence, but also helps to build confidence and self-esteem in the teenager that's using or learning money management skills for the first time. And the next slide goes into a little bit more detail about the Stable card. And you'll see there that, and I'll point out one thing, because I do want to be respectful of the time that we have for this presentation. But this Stable cards the parent who is managing the account on behalf of the beneficiary, they can actually set up account parameters to where it restricts where the Stable card can be used. For example, they can set it to where they can only use it at Walmart or, for example, Dollar General. They can also restrict the amount of money that can be spent at one time. They can also elect to receive text alerts every time that card is swiped. So it's just an excellent way to teach money management skills, but also for the parent to know how the card is being used. And then the other piece is that you can't use the card at an ATM to get cash out. So there's extra protections involved. The next thing we want to talk about is Social Security considerations for individuals that receive Supplemental Security Income, SSI. So we know that SSI beneficiaries, they cannot have more than $2,000 in a savings account or a checking or cash on hand unless it's in an ABLE account. And balances in an ABLE account that are over $100,000 do count as a resource from Social Security when determining eligibility. Now, what happens is the SSI benefit will only be suspended. It will not be terminated. That individual will become re-eligible once the amount is brought below $100,000. The next piece is housing-related expenses. For example, if you're paying rent, that expense must be paid out in the same calendar month in which the monies were withdrawn. Otherwise, the monies are considered a resource. So for example, if someone made a withdrawal from their stable account on the 25th and they moved monies to their checking account, but they didn't actually make the withdrawal from that checking account until the following month, let's say the 3rd, well then Social Security will count that as a resource for the monies that were in there the following month. So if it's for housing, if it's for rent, we go back to that third-party bill pay where the individual can elect for a stable to issue a check payment to the landlord or to the bank, and the monies never actually land in the hands of the beneficiary. It goes directly from the account to that landlord or to the bank. So they can bypass this concern that the housing-related expense would carry over to the next calendar month. And then the final piece to know is wages earned by the beneficiary are still counted as income in determining eligibility, even if contributed to a stable account. So next, we're often asked what happens if the beneficiary passes, what happens to the ABLE account. So there is no designated beneficiary upon death. So the funds do go into an individual's estate. If the beneficiary does not have a will, then the account will go through the normal probate process. So this is a reason why it's important to have a will. And another question that we're often asked is, can the funds be used for funeral and burial expenses? And the answer is definitely yes. Another piece I want to mention real quick, and this is an important piece, and it goes back to those legislative enhancements for the West Virginia resident that owns a WVABLE account. Effective 2019, Medicaid will not file a claim against a WVABLE account for any medical expenses that were paid on behalf of the beneficiary. So this was standard internal policy. However, now it is state law. West Virginia was actually one of the first states in the country to pass this type of legislation, in which there cannot be a Medicaid clawback. Now, the only exception is if the expenses were paid for the individual living in a nursing home or a community-based waiver program, and they are over the age of 55. And that is where the West Virginia Estate Recovery Program kicks in. So you can find out more information about that at their website, wvrecovery.com. But with that said, and the West Virginia State Recovery Program applies to any bank account, including ABLE. It's important to know that there's some added protections for WVABLE accounts, in that all outstanding bills for qualified disability expenses are paid out first, and you can deduct the Medicaid buy-in premiums. Also, you can pay funeral and burial expenses, and then after all that's paid out, that's when the West Virginia Estate Recovery would kick in. And then next, account costs. There is a monthly maintenance fee of $3.50 to own the WVABLE account, and that's charged by Stable Program Manager. That starts the day the account is open, so it equates to $42 annually. know that beginning July 1, and I mentioned this, that we will have a new program manager, that $3.50 fee goes down to $3 per month. So then it's $36 annually. And this is automatically debited from the account. And that's why it's important to make that initial $50 deposit within a couple weeks of enrolling into the account. The other fee involved in owning a WVABLE account is if you have allocated your monies to one of the investment options, there is an asset-based fee between 0.19% and 0.33%. So that applies only to the earnings portions of the investment. And then next, I want to just touch really quickly on special needs trusts, as we hear a lot about them. I mentioned earlier that before ABLE account, special needs trust was the only way to shelter resources above $2,000. And so we do have a spreadsheet that goes into more detail about comparing the similarities and differences between an ABLE and a special needs trust. That chart is actually on our website at the resources tab if you wanted to take a closer look at that. But the takeaway from this slide is just to know that special needs trusts and ABLE accounts are complementary tools that can be used together for the benefit of the beneficiary. As for what we know about each, a special needs trust, you work through an attorney, and there is a price tag associated. It can be a hefty one. Trusts can accept unlimited cash and non-cash assets like cars, a home, property, for example. However, they cannot be used to pay for food, housing, or basic living expenses, but trusts can be written so that distributions can be made to a stable account. And we know once monies are in a stable account, the monies can be used to pay for basic living expenses and housing. Now, what are the unique stable account benefits? We know that they're much more flexible than making withdrawals from a special needs trust. There's broader spending power. You can pay for housing and food. There is a West Virginia state tax deduction for contributions made to a WVABLE account. There is no federal or state income tax on the earnings portion, and it can be open, owned, and managed by the individual with a disability. And of course, the monies can be accessed online, and it's fairly easy to access your monies. So the big takeaway is they're complementary tools, and they can be used together for the benefit of the beneficiary. You just want to make sure whoever you're working with, the attorney, is obviously very knowledgeable about special needs trusts and also about ABLE accounts, because if an individual, I'll just tell you really quick, here in the last 2 weeks, I've received 3 different calls, one from an attorney and the other 2 were one was from a guardian, one was from a parent, but they were all in a situation where they had more than $15,000 and they needed it, they needed to shelter those monies. And so it made sense with the tax benefits and the easy access to the monies, that first $15,000 go into an ABLE account, but then they also needed a special needs trust to help shelter the remaining resources. So just know that you want to work with somebody who understands the benefits to the ABLE accounts as well. And then the next slide. So far we've talked about eligibility, about enrollment, how to make deposits and withdrawals from the accounts. Now, what about support for maintaining the account? So once the individual enrolls in a stable account, know that we here at the Treasurer's Office, we don't have access to the accounts. So we can't actually answer account-related questions. However, Stable does have a customer service department, and they are open Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. The number there, 1-800-439-1653, is where you can call to get support about your account. So let's say you're locked out and you need help in creating a username password, or let's say that you want to check the balance really quick and you don't have access to a computer to log in. You can call that number and they can assist you. They can even help during the enrollment piece. So if you have enrollment questions, they can help you there. If you have questions regarding the WVABLE program, so let's say you want more information about eligibility, or you have a question about qualified disability expenses, or let's say that you are with a group or organization and you want to schedule a presentation. So you would reach out to me at the treasurer's office at that number that you see, 304-340-5050. And you can also reach me via email at wvable@wvsto.com. And our website, WVABLE.com. Again, that's the hub where people can find lots of program information and go into more detail on what we covered this evening. And then how can you stay connected with WVABLE? So the next page, you'll see we are on Facebook. WVABLE has a Facebook page. You can go there. I would recommend, if you don't already follow the page, you can hop on over there, like and follow us. We post information and updates regarding the program. I mentioned the testimonials that we post there. We also post upcoming presentation and events that are open to the public. And we also share articles, whether they be state articles or whether they be national, that just provides more information about these ABLE accounts, the benefits, such as tax benefits, for example. The Able to Work program is another. There's just a lot of information that circulates out there that we'd like to share on our Facebook page to stay connected. But that's also a way that you can help spread the word about these accounts. And the next slide includes mention of our quarterly newsletter. That's another excellent way to stay up to date on any program-related changes or enhancements. I mentioned that the final regs were published last winter, and so in last of 2020. And once we have sorted through all of the final regs, we're going to include, information that helps to understand more about what the impact of those final regs are and what the additional benefits are. So we'll include information there. There's a lot of times in the newsletters I'll include additional resources too. So you can send an email to wvable@wvsto.com to request to receive quarterly newsletters. We actually just published our last one last week. I think I mentioned this, but not while we were live, and it's important to know that less than 1% of eligible individuals nationwide actually own an ABLE account. And so that number is even lower in West Virginia. Our programs are new. We're still working to get the word out. So your help in helping to spread the word is greatly appreciated, because this is a resource that families need to know that is available to them. If you want more information and you want printed brochures, I did provide 2 brochures to CARES that I think they'll be distributing to folks. It's a brochure about the program, but then a frequently asked question family guide. I also provide packets of information to families. So if you're interested in receiving that, it includes more detail about the IRS tax tip, special needs trust comparison chart, information about Able to Work. I also have some very functional merchandise, for example. We always try to include the contact information for both WVABLE and Stable on our merchandise, so it's easy access to the contact information. So pens are another example. We include that in the packets. So I'm right at 8:54. So at this point, do we have any questions that I may not have covered during the presentation?
Rhonda asked, the withdrawals from the Stable have a 1099. Is that taxed?
Withdrawals are only taxed. There's only a tax penalty if they're not spent on qualified disability expenses. And so there's 2 documents that Stable Program Manager is going to issue. So if you've made a withdrawal, then they're going to issue you the document that you would use, but you're only going to claim that withdrawal if it was spent on non-qualified disability expenses. And the penalty is a 10% penalty, and that's only towards the earnings portion of the investment. So it's a little bit complicated there, but it's actually, in the bigger picture, it's a very small 10% amount, and that's towards the earnings portion. So that would be the penalty if the monies are spent on non-qualified disability expenses.
Okay. Then a few more questions. Oh, wait. Then Ron just said, okay, so if it was unqualified, don't report it.
Right.
Okay.
And Rhonda, if you want to send me an email, I will confirm that. I will confirm that for you. That is what I understand. And when Stable provides, if for any account owners, the current account owners that might be listening, Stable provides the tax forms for when a withdrawal is made, and they provide instruction on what you're supposed to do with those forms as well.
The next two questions are from my husband.
Okay.
He said, can you still contribute for the 2020 tax year?
Okay, that's a good question. And my understanding, and I don't want to misspeak, but I do believe that you can. I think it mirrors the 529 college savings, and that you do have an extended amount of time to make contributions to the 529. And again, if you would send me an email so that I can confirm that for you.
Okay. And then he also asked, can you confirm if a trust must be in place before the ABLE account to fund more than $2,000 into the ABLE account?
No, there's no requirement that a trust has to be in place before a WVABLE account. They're really, if you want to look at it, that they are two resources that are available for the individual that wants to shelter resources above that $2,000.
Thank you. That's something that I know our family has talked about, and it's just so much information, and you have so many worries as a caregiver that you just, it's so overwhelming, you don't even know where to start sometimes.
Yeah, it's absolutely. And the ABLE accounts, before ABLE accounts were put in place by the legislation, the trusts were the only way to shelter resources above that $2,000. So it's now just an additional resource for folks, but it's always important to understand the benefits of the trust, special needs trust, and then the benefits of the WVABLE accounts.
Okay. The next question, Jill said, she probably missed this, but can money in an ABLE account be used to fund education?
Yes, absolutely. So again, I always like to, have folks to look at it this way. Think of it in terms of what would not qualify. Alcohol, gambling, gifting the monies, those would be obvious expenses, but anything that helps to maintain or improve the health, independence, quality of life, those are all considered qualified disability expenses.
Any other questions? I'm sure people will watch this on the replay too. Can they email you or?
Yeah, absolutely. So email WVABLE at WVSTO.com. And then the phone number is 304-340-5050. And for any of the listeners too, they can request a packet that includes more information, some hard copy materials that also has our contact information on it. So they can send an email, WVABLE at WVSTO.com.
Thank you so much, Roxanne.
Yes, thank you. I have a question piggybacking off the requesting materials. Would a teacher be able to request materials in bulk? So say a teacher has a 12-student class, they can request 12 packets to send home?
Yes, absolutely. We actually, the family guide that you all will see, we established this form in partnership with the West Virginia Department of Ed Special Education Department. And so we love to do presentations. I've done county presentations in Putnam County before amongst special education teachers and staff, counselors, psychologists. And so if there's any teachers that are listening or that will be listening, we're we are more than happy to provide a presentation to those folks too, and yes, to provide printed materials. I will tell you that in an ideal world, it is both this family guide and this this brochure front and back that would be passed off to families so that they can know about WVABLE, but then also have some of their frequently asked questions answered via this family guide.
I think this is going to help. Just your presentation tonight will help so many families because there are just so many unknowns when your child has a disability and their future is always in question. And as parents, we worry about that so much because we can't control it. And I know my son is just 7 and I already worry what's going to happen when I'm gone. So I feel like this gives you a little bit of peace of mind.
Yeah, absolutely. We hear that. And so I'll tell you, it's great to be able to work for a program that I know is actually tangibly helping families and helping individuals. So that's the rewarding and of the personal part for myself too. And let me mention one thing real quick. Rhonda, I see her note in the comment section about the 1099 QR. So if you go to the WVABLE.com website and you go to the resources tab, we have a sheet. It's like a tip sheet on what folks are to do with those forms. So if she wants to head on over there, and Rhonda, or if you just want to send me an email, I'm happy to send that form over to you that provides more information about that form from Stable.
Okay, well, it is 9 o'clock. So Taylor, I think you're up.
I just wanted to say really quick, I really agree with you, Deidre. I came into this presentation very interested, but also very skeptical, especially because I was confused on how monies could be spent, that it's very scary to think you're putting money into an account that you may not be able to spend. And now I'm so much more comfortable. I've been texting my husband saying, which he might be watching this or he might be busy with the kids right now, but we're absolutely signing up for it either tonight or tomorrow. So, Roxanne, I just wanted to really thank you because you've personally eased a lot of that anxiety of worrying about the future for me just by explaining this program. So I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. It gives me chills to hear that because this is exactly what we want for folks. And that's why these ABLE accounts were created, is to bring that peace of mind to parents for all the reasons, plus what you just mentioned. So thank you for this platform to help spread the word and just to educate. People hear about WVABLE, but they don't really understand it. So this, just the webinars, gives them that time that they need to be able to hear some of the specifics so that they can feel more comfortable with the program. So thank you.
Thank you. That's incredible. So, we might have had a new question. Oh, it's Rhonda. I've been signed up for a year and a half. It's great. I use the Stable card like an HSA for my son's medical needs.
Perfect. That's a perfect example. We'd love to hear that.
That's incredible. I know the big thought that I have for how we can use this is our son goes to school out of area just because we trust that school so much. And I think any parent, education's a big, scary factor. So you don't want to leave a school once your school does so well. So now I'm thinking this could help us for gas in the long run. So that's one big interest. It seems like there are 1,000 different offshoots of how this money could benefit families. Absolutely.
And Rhonda just mentioned that TurboTax specifically asks about their contributions. So that's right. As a result of the 2019 legislation, when you're filing your taxes, you want to claim the amount of the contribution that was made into WVABLE account, because that does qualify towards a West Virginia state income tax deduction. So thanks for sharing that, Rhonda.
That's amazing. So we've talked at the end of this session. This is our 6th session. So we've talked about how being a parent or caregiver of a child having special needs can cause a lot of stress. It can cause parental burnout. And I'll just put that little asterisk one more time because I can't say it enough. Having that feeling of being burnt out or being overwhelmed does not make you a bad parent. That makes you a parent who is in the same boat as everyone else. I don't care what Instagram, mine, or anyone else's tells you. We have stress. And so it's really important not only for ourselves to take care of our stress, but for our children. It's how we take care of ourselves directly impacts how well we can take care of them. We've talked about the importance of self-care. And when I say self-care, I don't mean Hollywood self-care. I mean realistic self-care of being able to take a few moments out for yourself each day. Even if some days that's brushing your teeth. And I mean that. It's just being able to take a moment out for you. I was excited to share this story. My husband the other day said, you know how people say twiddle your thumbs when you're bored? And I said, yeah. And he said, well, I've just been really calming myself down. I don't know what it is, but just twiddling my thumbs and feeling them moving over each other. And I said, you're meditating. You're practicing mindfulness. Even if you're not realizing it, you're meditating. He's taking a sensory experience and taking a moment for himself to get his thoughts together and grounding himself and just feeling his hands. So I just I've been excited to tell that story, that he kind of on his own found a helpful outlet for meditating in a kind of unexpected way. I wanted to talk about a specific exercise called progressive muscle what is wrong with me? Progressive muscle tension and relaxation. And so sometimes our body is responding to stress and we don't even realize it. I know I will sometimes get a jaw ache, and that is because I am unconsciously shoving my tongue in the roof of my mouth so hard that it's causing me a facial ache. And so I've really been trying to notice when I'm doing that so I can just relax my mouth muscles. But so I'm hoping that this exercise will help some of you be able to identify when your body's showing those stress symptoms and what you can do to release them. So if you could try to set flat, or, you can do this in bed. It doesn't really matter. Just really focus on your body and take your right foot, starting at your toes, and curl them up as absolutely tight as you can, and then release them. And then go to your left foot and curl up your toes as tight as you can. Really feel the tension there, and then relax. And go all the way up your legs doing this, and then go all the way up your body. Do it with your arms, your hands, eventually your shoulder and neck, and then just relax. And you'll feel better because you consciously thought about your muscle tension and how to relax. So if you're taking one of these moments for yourself where you're really stressed, my runaway place is the bathroom, because that is the one room in our house where we have halfway boundaries of not being followed. And so you can just take 5 minutes and progressively relax your body parts and then ease them off. If you aren't able to get away for that 5 minutes during the day, when you're laying down in bed at night, you can do that, and that can help relax you. And so I really hope that this technique helps you. I hope that you can mindfully search on Google for different relaxation techniques to find one that fits the best for you. Because as I've said, and I'll say it time and time again, it is so, so important that you take care of yourself, because you deserve to take care of yourself. You deserve to feel well, and you are able to function your best when you're treating yourself with the same kindness that you're extending to your children, your spouse, your friends. Really give yourself that same love and that same credit.
Thank you so much, Taylor. I've definitely been doing a lot of that, like trying to just even be like aware of my posture, because I realize during the day I get so tense. I'm like, whoa, it really does feel better when you just take a minute and reset. So thank you for that. I know we have more virtual support groups coming. I believe maybe next week we are going to talk about the special needs trusts. So that kind of piggybacks with the ABLES account. So definitely be looking for updates in the coming week. Remember the Spec Run, April 17th. We really hope to see you there, because it's just going to be so much fun. And I think a part of, worrying about our kids and things like that, sometimes we miss the chance to just enjoy our kids and have fun. And we're definitely a safe place. Come enjoy yourself. If your kid runs, we will help you chase them. So hope to see you guys there, and have a wonderful week. We'll see you later. Bye.
Bye.